Is Thursday, June 18th, 2020. It is 8:30 p.m. Welcome to Poetry After Dark. I decided to try to record this at exactly the moment that sundown happens in the northwestern hemisphere, the northeastern part of this country, and I figured that I would do so from this part of my house. This is the place that I do my poetry for all of my kids, and it has most of my access to books and everything else. And I kind of like it, though I also did like last week's kitchen episode. Tell me which one you like best. It's the best way we can do this, right? If you liked the kitchen episode best, tell me that. If you liked this one, tell me here. I also know that I'm not in complete darkness. The light from my bathroom is throwing a yellowish vibrance, and the light from my kitchen is throwing a warm orange, and the light from outside, still lingering on the horizon, illuminates the side of my face, which almost makes me look like I'm a part of a vaporwave video or something. When I start the poems, I will click I'll click that lamp and we'll begin. But I was hesitant to post today. Being that it is June 18th, most of the people who will be watching this will probably watch it tomorrow, on June 19th, 2020. June 19th, Juneteenth has been and is just getting really the recognition it deserves as a freedom holiday, or as it should be known as, a freedom holiday. If you are not aware of what Juneteenth is, of what June 19th signifies, it is the moment when the final slaves in Texas when the speech that freed them was spoken. I wasn't taught about it in almost any class, in any of my knowledge, at school. I only found out about this hopeful holiday. It is a holiday to, or should be a holiday to, 41 million people in our country, but it should also be a holiday to everyone else. But it's not recognized as one yet. An unofficial holiday. I first learned of this in college and wondered why no one had told me about it before. And as an educator, I will be doing poetry by black authors tomorrow morning for my kids, which has been a continuous cycle of doing so this month for very good or at least my opinion is they're very good and very personal reasons. So, I have a few poems for you today, and then I will encourage you to go out and seek black poets and poets of color and people who read the poems of these people. I will encourage you to do that. I don't get any money from these videos yet, and I probably never will. So I'm just doing this for the fun of it. And I hope that in the event I ever do make money, I can find a way to contribute to the art of poetry and the people who have defined poetry in the 20th and in the 20th century and the 21st. I once heard that poetry is the language of the oppressed. It's a wonder how many people don't like poetry. We start today with Jacqueline Woodson. Once again from Brown Girl Dreaming. You might say to yourself, Harold, do you have any other books on poetry? And my answer is, yeah, I have a few. I really can't wait to break into... Whoop, wrong hand. I really can't wait to break into poetry like bread, which I very much love. And I have a few other books that I would like to get into, but the more and more we go, throughout the time that I started this, the people that I want to highlight are kind of consistent so far. So, this is Sterling High School, Greenville. While my mother is away in New York City, a fire sweeps through her old high school during a senior dance. Smoke filled the crowded room, and the music stopped. The students dancing stopped, and the DJ told them to quickly leave the building. The fire lasted all night, and when it was over, my mother's high school had burned nearly to the ground. My mother said it was because the students had been marching, and the marching made some white people in Greenville mad. After the fires, the students weren't allowed to go to the all-white high school. Instead, they had to crowd in beside their younger sisters and brothers at the lower school. In the photos from my mother's high school yearbook, The Torch 1959, my mother is smiling beside her cousin Dorothy Ann, and on her right side there is Jesse Jackson, who maybe has already dreamed of one day being the first brown man to run for president. And not even the torching of their school could stop him or the marchers from changing the world. This is another poem by Jacqueline Woodson. What everybody knows now. And I feel like I've trapped Jocelyn in the kitchen, because I can hear her creaking around in the chair out there. But it's okay. She wants to make a bunch of stuff. What everybody knows now. Even though the laws have changed, my grandmother still takes us to the back of the bus where we go downtown in the rain. It's easier, my grandmother says, than having white folks look at me like I'm dirt. But we aren't dirt. We are the people paying the same fare as the other people. When I say this to my grandmother, she nods and says, easier to stay where you belong. I look around and see the ones who walk straight to the back, see the ones who take a seat up front, daring anyone to make them move, and know that this is who I want to be. Not scared like that. Brave like that. Still, my grandmother takes my hand downtown, pulls me right past the restaurants that have to let us sit wherever we want to now. No need in making trouble, she says. You all go back to New York City, but I have to live here. We went straight past Woolworth's, without even looking in the windows, because the one time my grandmother went inside, they made her wait and wait, acted like I wasn't even there. It's hard not to see the moment my grandmother, in her Sunday clothes, a hat with a flower pinned to it, neatly on her head, her patent leather purse perfectly clasped between her gloved hands, waiting quietly, long past her turn. Sorry, I lost a page somewhere. Cool. This one's called The Selfish Giant. Or should I do this later? No, I'm going to do this one now. In the story of the selfish giant, a little boy hugs a giant who has never been hugged before. The giant falls in love with the boy, but then one day the boy disappears. When he returns, he has scars on his hands and his feet, just like Jesus. The giant dies and goes to paradise. The first time my teacher reads the story to the class, I cry all afternoon and am still crying. When my mother gets home from work that evening, she doesn't understand why. I want to hear such a sad story again and again, but it takes me to the library around the corner where I beg, and helps me find the book to borrow. The Selfish Giant by Oscar Wilde. I read the story again and again. Like the giant, I too fall in love with the Jesus boy. There's something so sweet about him. I want to be his friend. Then one day my teacher asks me to come up front and to read aloud, but I don't need to bring the book with me. The story of the Selfish Giant is in my head now, living there, remembered. Every afternoon as they were coming from school, the children used to go and play in the giant's garden. I tell the class, the words, the whole story flowing out of me right up to the end where the boy says, "These are the wounds of love. You let me play once in your garden. Today you shall come with me to my garden, which is paradise." "How did you do that?" my classmates ask. "How did you memorize all those words?" But I just shrug, not knowing what to say. How can I explain to anyone that stories are like air to me? I breathe them in and let them out, over and over again. "Brilliant," my teacher says, smiling. "Jackie, that was absolutely brilliant." Beautiful. Oops. And now I know. Words are my tindayo. Words are my brilliance. Sorry if I butchered that last sentence. That's the second to last sentence. Really tried not to. The Revolution. Don't wait for your school to teach you, my uncle says, about the revolution. It's happening in the streets. He's been out of jail for more than a year now, and his hair is an afro again, gently moving in the wind as we head to the park, him holding tight to my hand even when we're not crossing Knickerbocker Avenue, even now when I am too old for hand-holding and the like. The revolution is when Shirley Chisholm ran for president and the rest of the world tried to imagine a black woman in the White House. When I hear the word revolution, I think of the carousel with all those beautiful horses, going around as though they'll never stop, and me choosing the purple one each time, climbing up onto it and reaching for the golden ring as soft music plays. The revolution is always going to be happening. I want to write this down, that the revolution is like a merry-go-round, history always being made somewhere, and maybe for a short time we're a part of that history. And then the ride stops and our turn is over. We walk slow towards the park where I can already see the big swings empty and waiting for me. And after I write it down, maybe I'll end it this way. My name is Jacqueline Woodson, and I am ready for the ride. That was The Revolution, and the last of the Jacqueline Woodson poems I'm going to read today. The following poems, if I can actually find the second one, which I will completely give up on doing so. I will say that the last two poems I wanted to read was by a slam poet by the name of Jamal Parker. If you have the opportunity, please go and watch his stuff. He is absolutely wonderful. There's no other way to put it. He just is. So instead, I will end with Saeed Jones in The Blue Dress, because this too is beautiful and brilliant. Her blue dress is a silk train, is a river. Is water seeps into the cobblestone streets of my sleep, is still raining in monsoon brocade, in Is winter stars stitched into puddles? Is goodbye in a flooded antique room? Is goodbye in a room of crystal bowls and crystal cups? Is the ring-ting-ting of water dripping from the mouths of crystal bowls and crystal cups? Is the Mississippi River is a hallway? Is leaks like tears from windowsills of a drowned house? Is windows open to waterfalls? Is a bed in a small boat? Is a ship? Is current come to carry me in its arms through the streets? Is me floating in her dress through the streets? Is only the moon sees me floating through the streets? Is me in the blue dress out to sea? Is my mother is a moon out to sea? That was Saeed Jones's The Blue Dress. And with that, at 15 minutes, 16 by the time I finish this sentence, I think I'm calling it a night. I don't have an end call sign for you. I keep wanting to try to get one. For my kids, it's I hope to see ya. I don't know if it fits here. In my old stuff that I used to do on Instagram, I used to say, fuck you, Chris. That doesn't feel right either. So, instead, I hope that we see each other someday in this world. And I can tell you how important you are.